stops us in our tracks. Bravely we prove in our striving, trudging together each day. Where there's a will, there's a way.
Good morning and welcome. Welcome to the Daily Trudge. It is Friday, March 21st. Morning, Leisure. Good to see you. I don't know why my microphone doesn't stay where I tell it to, but that's all right. Yeah. I'll move it a little bit more. Just a little bit. Just a little bit. RESPECT. Find out what it means to me. Morning, Sam. Morning, Michelle. Good to see you both. I'm going to be reading in the doctor's opinion today out of the big book, which we call Alcoholics Anonymous. All right. 5th edition should be coming out soon. So the way the big book kind of works is the first 164 pages are not to be messed with. There's a lot of contention. Oh, we need to change the verbiage. It's outdated. It's not outdated. Okay. They use some English words that a lot of people don't use nowadays because they want their slang. We're not going to write this in slang. See, the thing is God wrote the big book. Okay. And he utilized his children to do it. If Bill had not gone to Akron in order to, and failed in his business, if his business would have gone successful, AA would not be here. If if Bill was not tempted, but instead called a church to find somebody that he could help, we would not be here. If Ebby would not have gotten in trouble with the law and picked up by the Oxford group, we would not be here. If it wasn't for Lois and Lois's brother and Bill's parents, if it wasn't for a lot of things, AA would not be here. Right? If you're finding difficulty with the verbiage in the big book, I would recommend getting a dictionary and looking it up. Okay? That's what I had to do. And that's how I learned these words. Okay? Like incomprehensible demoralization. Constitutionally incapable is one that people have seen, because I hear it all the time. Maybe I'm just constitutionally incapable of being honest. Well, if you say that, yes, you are, because constitutionally incapable means denial. So yes, you are denying the fact that you are honest. Or you're creating a denial so you will continue not to be honest. Good morning, Clara. It's good to see you. All right. We should kind of get moving on this. I got to run a meeting I don't have to run a meeting at noon. I do have to host it though. I don't really have to do that much, so might be able to go a little bit longer than I think. All right, now I'm going to actually start on page, would be 27. So XXVII is where I'm going to start. So it's a couple pages into the doctor's opinion, because the real good stuff comes at the second part of his writing. That's where he really goes in depth. The other one's just like, yeah, these guys are cool and you should listen to them. And that's about it. Let's do some introductions here. Welcome to Daily Trudge. My name is Dion. I'm going to be your host today and the foreseeable future. Every now and again, it's been a while since somebody's told me that I need to bring somebody else on with me. I do leave that open. If you want to join me at some point, you just got to reach out. I will set something up. But these are kind of done on my convenience. I've been trying to do it at about 11 o'clock each day. Been trying. All right. If you're here, please say hello, whether you're watching the live or the rewatch. And remember that you are allowed to post your experience here, even if your experience is different. I'm not going to get all mad if your experience is different. I will get mad if you call me names or post about mushrooms. Been a while, huh? Okay. Knock on wood. I said that, now it's going to happen today. All right, so let's get started. The subject presented in this book seems to be of paramount importance to those afflicted with alcohol addiction. I say this after many years as medical director of one of the oldest hospitals in the country treating alcohol and drug addiction. There was therefore a sense of real satisfaction when I was asked to contribute a few words on a subject which is covered in such masterly detail in these pages. Morning, Heather. Good to see you. Hey. Before I move on, let's talk a little bit. I don't know much about Silkworth. But here again, if we didn't have Silkworth, AA would not be here. But he had to have gone through something. Something happened to this man. I don't know what it is, but it was probably his mother, because he kind of seems like a mama's boy. Probably his mother, who was alcoholic. Somebody close to him died of alcoholism, and that is exactly why he did what he did. So he also has what I would call a servant's heart, because we all know we don't get into this field for money. He wasn't making a ton of money, I could tell you that. All right. Leisure says, I'll join one day as long as the lights don't give me an ocular migraine. And always turn them off. We doctors have realized for a long time that some form of moral psychology was of an urgent importance to alcoholics, but its application presented difficulties beyond our conception. What with our ultra-modern standards, our scientific approach to everything, we are perhaps not well equipped to apply the powers of good that lie outside our synthetic knowledge. Hi, Amber. It was at 6. It was at 6. I think there's more than 4 people here. It says that there's 4 people, but there's more than that. Because we got a couple people on. Yeah, see, now it popped back up to 6 again. But it says that everybody's on YouTube. So I don't know. I do not know. So what he's saying here is he could not apply the powers of good. Well, that would be a higher power. All right, so moral psychology. Today we call that cognitive behavioral therapy, CBT. All right, and what he's talking about is what's called the X factor. That's what they call it in clinical terms, and it means God. They can't even write God. They got to write X factor. Why, I don't know. Anyway, but that'd be a whole political thing, and we're not going to get into that here. Honestly, it doesn't matter anyway. Many years ago, one of the leading contributors to this book, that would be Bill, came under our care in this hospital, and while here, he acquired some ideas which he put into practical application at once. Later, he requested the privilege of being allowed to tell his story to other patients, and with some misgiving, we consented. The cases we have followed have been most interesting. In fact, many of them are amazing. The unselfishness of these men as we have come to know them, the entire absence of profit motive, and their community spirit is indeed inspiring to one who has labored long and wearily in this alcoholic field. They believe in themselves and still more in the power which pulls chronic alcoholics back from the gates of death. Is that cool? That we get to pull people back from the gates of death. And could you imagine Dr. Silkworth going home every single day, feeling how he is failing these people? But he's given everything that he can, everything within his knowledge He went out and learned more so he could study it, so he could figure it out. And then Bill comes along with this answer after years and years and years of trying. That must have been pretty exciting for Silkworth. I would think that it would be. So this morning, I went to Kaiser. For people that don't know, it's just a medical place, and I thought it was a walk-in. I thought they had a walk-in. They do have a walk-in. It's just their walk-in is for like blood pressure. So well, I can go to the store and do that, immunizations, things like that. So, but I went up and I'm like, I'd like to, yeah, I'm a walk-in. They're like, well, we could try and set you an appointment. Let's see what the earliest one is. They were looking and they're nothing today, but we have several spots open tomorrow. And I said, you know what? Yeah, let's go ahead and book one of those appointments. I'm a recovering alcoholic, so it doesn't hurt as much as you think it does. This is nothing compared to detoxing. I'm used to pain. This is more of an inconvenience. All right. And I do that stuff on purpose. Yes. See, what am I doing? Well, I'm using my old manipulation for something good now. Right. It turns out there was a lady to my right who was working there and she kept looking at me. And she said, do you have any resources? It turns out that her son is having a hard time staying sober. He's been trying some different things, including AA and some things, but he's just having a hard time. You know, he doesn't, and we all know what it is. He doesn't have the support that he needs. All right. So I spent 10 minutes with her. And I even gave her information on, I'm like, there's programs out there for you too, like Al-Anon. She's like, oh, I've hit Al-Anon. And I told her maybe you should try it again because, you know, it'd be a good example. So was the reason that I went down there to get my finger taken care of? No, the reason I was down there was to help that person. And so thank you, God, for allowing that to happen. Certainly not a waste. I could have gotten mad because, oh, well, you said it's a walk-in and I could have had a bad attitude, but that bad attitude would have turned everybody off. And then would they really want my help? No, they wouldn't. No, they wouldn't. See, that is God working in our lives. And yet again, they believe in themselves and still more in the power which pulls chronic alcoholics back from the gates of death. And if I can make a move, if I need to spend 10 minutes of my time in order for somebody to help do that, I'm going to do it. Of course, an alcoholic ought to be freed from his physical craving for liquor, and this often requires a definite hospital procedure before psychological measures can be of maximum service. Gotta be off the hooch, is what he's saying. And there's actually more to that. There's more to that. A definite hospital procedure. Well, according to this, that means that the alcohol is going to be lifted. Well, here's the thing, folks. Here's the thing. Not a problem, Sam. Have a great day. I'm glad you could stop by, brother. You know, they say that it takes an ounce an hour, right, of drinking for the alcohols out of your system. But we don't. That's for non-alcoholics. For our bodies work differently. 28 days. 28 days on average. That means that you haven't destroyed your liver yet. That's what that means. If it is taking less alcohol in order for you to get drunk, your liver's going. It's actually a very, very bad sign. If it's taking you longer to get the alcohol out of your system, is because your liver is not working correctly. Okay? So it can take about 28 days on average. That's why treatment is 28 days. That's why that 30-day mark is so fucking important. Right? So that's kind of what they're talking about, that the alcohol needs to be all the way out. Now, can the program start taking effect after a few weeks? Absolutely, it can. Absolutely, it can. We believe, and so suggested a few years ago, that the action of alcohol on these chronic alcoholics is a manifestation of an allergy. That the phenomena of craving is limited to this class and never occurs in the average temperate drinker. Never occurs in the average temperate drinker. Okay. There is a big difference between alcohol addiction and the rest of them. And I'm certainly not putting anybody down with other addictions. I am not. Okay. Absolutely not. Okay. That leisure says the longest 30 days. That's we in AA we call it 30 days, 1,000 nights, because it feels like it's fucking forever. But once you get to a point where you no longer have the obsession for drinking, your days start going by pretty quick. Right. So it says it never occurs in the average temperate drinker. Never. Okay. If somebody wants to be an alcoholic and they are non-alcoholic, good luck. It ain't going to happen. It's not going to happen. And this is opinion because it has not been proven, but gosh, there's so many facts where I feel that we are born with this disease. Here's the biggest difference. Not anybody can be an alcoholic. Nope. It is a selected class, but anybody can be addicted to crack, to cocaine, to meth. Yeah. And we got to keep that in mind. We got to keep that in mind. Leisure says, I like the term average temperate drinker much better than normal drinker. Who is normal? Yeah. That's why I say non-alcoholic. It's just the easiest way for me. But yeah, normal drinker. I mean, here's the thing, when alcohol first came out and stuff, they had XXX on it, and that means poison. Okay, it means poison. These allergic types could never safely use alcohol in any form at all, and once having formed the habit and found they cannot break it, once having lost their self-confidence, their reliance upon things human, their problems pile up on them and they become astonishingly difficult to solve. Right? Right. Remember when you got here? Remember how many problems you had? All right. Well, we're going to get into that a little bit later here. Frothy emotional appeal seldom suffices. The message which can interest and hold these alcoholic people must have depth and weight. In nearly all cases, their ideals must be grounded in a power greater than themselves if they are to recreate their lives. Nowadays, we would call this peer support, right? Right. See, I can get through to an alcoholic quicker than any doctor out there, to any non-alcoholic out there. Yep. Unless they are my own family, and then I can do nothing because I will go to that frothy emotional appeal. Why is it? Because they always want something. They always want something. Yeah, that's the hard part. And it pushes against our denial. So why that is, I don't know. I don't know the reasoning behind it, but I know it's true. Almost every girl I dated tried to get me to quit drinking. You called my mother, you were out. Call my mother on me. Been dating you 3 months, you can call my mom. So I started hiding my mom's number in my phone. I think I named her Alice or something like that. I don't remember. Okay. So when you and I approach them, it's different because we get away with saying certain things, don't we? Because we are alcoholic and we can do that. We've been there. We know what it's like. We can confront these people. All right? Yeah, we can. We can say things like, do you want to know the best gift I ever gave my mom? I quit drinking. Now she doesn't have to sit up all night wondering if she's going to get that phone call at 3 o'clock in the morning that I'm dead in a ditch, that her worst nightmares have come true. Or even worse, that I'm in jail for the rest of my life because I killed somebody else's child. Even a worse nightmare. Yeah. If any feel that as a psychiatrist directing a hospital for alcoholics, we appear somewhat sentimental, let them stand with us a while on the firing line, see the tragedies, the despairing wives, the little children. Let the solving of these problems become a part of their daily work and even in their sleeping moments. And the most cynical will not wonder that we have accepted and encouraged this movement. Nothing fucking wrenches my heart like seeing a kid cry because their parent can't be available for them. I put my kids through that. I still feel kind of bad about it. I don't have any much shame or blame around it. There's no point in that. But I still do feel good about it, or I still do feel a little bad about it. And I keep that. Why? So I don't do it again. Because my brain will come up with some stupid fucking reason to go out and drink. And I do not want to put my kids through that again. I do not want to put my wife through it again. I don't want to put me through it again. That's why I work the front lines, and I do work the front lines. I work with people that there's a lot of people out there that want to help, but they can't, or they don't want to. But part of the problem is they keep mixing up mental health and alcoholism, and they're kind of two separate things. But that's not for here. So yes, I am somewhat sentimental and very protective. Yeah. So much that I might even break tradition. You know how I feel about breaking tradition. No. So I get what he's saying here. Is there nothing that you can do? I mean, and he'll get into it a little bit more. So let's keep going. We feel after many years of experience that we have found nothing which has contributed more to the rehabilitation of these men and women than the altruistic movement now growing up among them. We're going to look up altruistic. We all kind of know what it means. Most of us know exactly what it means. Definition of altruistic.
Here's the definition of altruistic: showing a disinterested and selfless concern for the well-being of others, unselfish.
That means not accepting money. Not for our 12th step work. Right. Altruistic means unconditional love. It means that I'm going to help you and I don't want anything in return. I'm not even getting paid. There's nothing being exchanged here except love. That my only intention is to help you the best that I can. And then beyond that, let's say I can't help you. Maybe I'm not a good fit and I recognize that. Then I will go find somebody who can. And I will too. I'm not everybody's cup of tea. I'm not. I'm pretty rough. And sometimes people don't need rough. They need a little kinder of a hand. Right. And even then, okay. So men and women drink essentially because they like the effect produced by alcohol. The sensation is so elusive that while they admit it is injurious, they cannot after a time differentiate the true from the false. That comes from lack of sleep. When you drink, you don't dream. When you don't dream, you don't REM. When you don't REM, you go cuckoo. You start seeing things that don't exist. To them, their alcoholic life seems the only normal one. They are restless, irritable, and discontent unless they can experience the sense and experience the sense and ease and the sense of ease and comfort which comes at once by taking a few drinks which they see others taking with impunity. It's a hard one. So this is the way I do it. I used up my drink card. I used it up. I don't care if other people are drinking. I abused it. And I couldn't do that. The best I can go for is I hope they don't do what I did. Yeah. After they succumb to the desire again, as so many do, and the phenomena of craving develops, they pass through the well-known stages of a spree, emerging remorseful, with a firm resolution not to drink again. This is repeated over and over, and unless this person can experience an entire psychic change, there is very little hope of his recovery. I got to do one thing here real quick. Now, what they're talking about there is step 0. We call it the step before the steps. We disclose our stories in a general way. What it used to be like, what happened, that's the psychic change. What happened? Well, I don't want to hurt these people. We have different reasons, but I can tell you now, it has been my experience that not one alcoholic got sober for themselves in the beginning. Not a one of them. We usually need some outside force that means more to us than us, because it's clear we don't love ourselves. It's clear. Or we would not be treating ourselves this way. So just to keep this part simple, psychic, mind, change. You changed your mind, and that is a great place to start. Sometimes it comes with a spiritual experience. Sometimes it does not. On the other hand, and strange as this may seem to those who do not understand, once the psychic change has occurred, the very same person who seemed doomed, who had so many problems he despaired of ever solving them, suddenly finds himself easily able to control his desire for alcohol. The only effort necessary that required to follow a few simple rules. That would be the 12 steps. And yes, I'm speeding up here a little bit because I got to run a meeting in 25 minutes. So men have cried out to me in sincere and despairing appeal, "Doctor, I cannot go on like this. I have everything to live for. I must stop, but I cannot. You must help me." This next line gets me every single time. Faced with this problem, if a doctor is honest with themselves, he must sometimes feel his own inadequacy. What a gut punch for him. But yet he kept moving forward. He kept trying to help. That didn't stop him. Thank you, Dr. Silkworth, for doing what you did for me. I appreciate that. And I don't even know this man. And he helped me. Okay. So if you're up there listening, doctor, thank you. I feel this way sometimes. Absolutely. Although he gives all that is in him, if it's often not enough, one feels that something more than a human power is needed to produce the essential psychic change. Though the aggregate of recoveries, so aggregate means mass total, though the aggregate of recoveries resulting from psychiatric effort is considerable, we physicians must admit that we have made little impression upon the problem as a whole. Many types do not respond to the ordinary psychological approach. No. We're so good at playing the game, and a lot of times they can't help us because we don't know how to be honest with them. We won't be honest that we're drinking too much or we're doing this and we're doing that. Do you drink? Yeah, here and there, which is a total lie. You had to drink before you came into the doctor's office. And guess what? They can smell it on you. They know, but they can't help you unless you're honest. I do not hold with those who believe that alcoholism is entirely a problem of mental control. Nope. No, if that was true, a lot of us could have gotten and stayed sober because I have a shit ton of willpower, but not for alcohol and for some other things. I've had men who had, for example, worked a period of months on some problem or business deal which was to be settled on a certain date favorably to them. They took a drink a day or so prior to the date And then the phenomena of craving at once became paramount to all other interests, so that the important appointment was not met. These men were not drinking to escape, they were drinking to overcome a craving beyond their mental control. And sometimes the good things, yeah, it is your mind creating another excuse to go to, well, it fell through because I wasn't feeling well and I couldn't make it and I've got to drink over that. But we won't admit that we didn't make it because we were drinking. When something good happens, our minds go, well, it's time to party. We need to celebrate. That's why it's important that we watch how much we're actually celebrating, because that can take your mind to a different place. I'm going to do a couple of I'm gonna just do this last paragraph. The rest of it is really good too, but all right. There are many, or page I meant. There are many situations which rise out of the phenomena of craving, which cause men to make the supreme sacrifice rather than continue to fight. The supreme sacrifice is death. It is suicide. The classifications of alcohol seems most difficult and in much detail outside the scope of this book. There are, of course, the psychopaths who are emotionally unstable. We are familiar with this type. They're always going on the wagon for keeps. They are over remorseful and make many resolutions, but never a decision. There is a type of man who is unwilling to admit that he cannot take a drink. He plans various ways of drinking. He changes his brand or environment. There is the type who has always believed that he, after being entirely free from alcohol for a period of time, he can take a drink without danger. There's the manic depressive type who is perhaps the least understood by his friends and about whom a whole chapter could be written. Now they're about to describe about 90% of the people in the program. Then there are the types entirely normal in every respect except the effect alcohol has upon them. They're often able, intelligent, friendly people. All these and many others have one symptom in common. This is where this is where the playing field gets leveled. They cannot start drinking without developing the phenomenon of craving. See, there's a landing spot for all of us. Nowhere in this book does it say anything about your materialistic making you your material objects making you a different type of alcoholic. We hear a lot in meetings, I hear the words functioning alcoholic, and functioning alcoholic does not exist. That is an oxymoron. There is nothing functioning about alcoholism. Okay? This phenomenon, as we have suggested, may be the manifestation of an allergy which differentiates these people and sets them apart as a distinct entity. It has never been, by any treatment with which we are familiar, permanently eradicated. The only relief we have to suggest is entire abstinence. And by entire abstinence, that means all alcohol. Yes, beer is alcohol. All right. All right. That's going to be it for this round. I appreciate everybody being here. I'll see some of you in about 19 minutes at the noon meeting. Others I'll see a little bit later. I do appreciate everybody being here, making a lot of traction out in our community. And I appreciate everybody's support. Even if you're not from my state or my country, the fact that you continue to listen to me, and it adds to everything. It adds to everything. You know, it's funny because now I've been going to meetings and I hear people repeating what I'm saying here, and it brings just a lot of joy. These are not original thoughts from Dion. These are thoughts that were stolen from other people that helped me out so I could work my program. My program is a bunch of stolen ideas from everybody else. right? So, and that's how we all get a program. You're not going to get it all from one person either. So, all right. Thank you, everybody, for being here. I appreciate it. I love you. You know I do. Peace out. And